Today's video, we're going to talk about organic social versus paid ads, which is more profitable for local versus national businesses, as well as B2B versus B2C businesses. So basically covering the entire spectrum of all the businesses out there. There's different situations where organic social is going to make you far more money and quicker than with other types of businesses. And I'm going to give you several examples where I've seen this myself in our own firm, given I deal with small business owners every day as my full-time job, just talking to them, what they're doing, what they're not doing, and just being an advertising agency and doing all the ad strategy for all of our dozens of clients. I've been doing it over a decade now. I can tell you where your money is best placed for most of you guys just based upon the type of business that you have. So I'm going to go through all the details on this, and with that, basically what the pros and cons of these are, but of course, the pros being stronger for certain types of businesses and the cons being stronger for other types of businesses. I'm going to go through all those details in today's video so you can finally figure out for yourself if your money and time is better spent on building an organic following on social or just posting on social, if you want to say that, versus running some sort of paid advertising campaign for your business. Given, though, that organic social is not always automatically better because it costs your time to do it. You got to pay somebody or work yourself to come up with the content. And generally speaking, it's not you post something and boom, you instantly get results with it. It's slower, but potentially a hell of a lot more profitable long term when you understand how to actually promote yourself on social media, which you can make millions upon millions of dollars if you just know the game. So with that said, which one's more profitable considering the actual money involved, either paying somebody to post or spending your money on ad spend, which of course you have to pay someone to manage that ad. That's its own thing. I'll go over all those details in today's video though, so you can find out for yourself which one is probably more profitable for you. If you do not know who I am Corey Ziman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for their clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we can get them a certain minimum lift in the profitability, basically in excess of any management fees that we charge. Are the only agency out there doing anything like this, which should tell you something about the quality of the information that you're receiving on today's video. So with that said, getting into the content here. Now, I've actually put organic social on one side of this chart and paid ads on the other side. And I'll go through and as I do this, I'll explain for each business type where these apply as well as where it doesn't apply. So you know how to pick one that's going to be more profitable for your business, or just know if you're doing one, should you do the other? Which in a lot of businesses, you should be doing both technically. And the real question is, which one do I start with first before I do the other one and take the money I'm making from one and plow it into the other? So with that said, the big fallacy, by the way, before I go through the bullet points here, is for local businesses, a lot of people say, I'm looking for a local lawn care client. Why do I want to put together a social media following to get this? Nobody cares, about watching content about lawn care on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram. And then furthermore, if I do get an audience, it's going to be from people outside my area. So why is it even worth doing in the first place? The reality is some of that, certainly is true. Otherwise, people wouldn't be saying it. However, I've seen businesses get all their clients for their local business just by doing social media correctly. Yes, it takes a few tens of thousands of followers to do it, but if you got it there, pretty much everybody who is going to be buying in your space is going to go online and search for something at some point in time. And if they've seen you, of course, they're more likely to go with you than anybody else. Either right away as they see your stuff, or when they go to buy and they go to Google search something, they already know who you are, so they're just going to beeline towards you. And so therefore, there's no reason why you should single out social media, organic advertising on social media as something that will not work for your local business. Where social media has the least impact for businesses, I would say, is for super niche things that people typically don't do any research on before they go ahead and make a purchase decision. And in that case, it's less profitable and powerful, but still, even then, it's still going to be able to get you sales. So with that said, I'm going to try to actually give you some examples here where organic social worked versus didn't work. And given that paid ads will typically work for everything if you just know how to target your audience, I'll go through each one of those examples. And so stay to the end of the video for that. Now, organic social on that side of things One thing you got to keep in mind right off the bat here is that anymore, Gen Z, secondarily to that, but lesser so with millennials, there's a lot of people not using traditional search engines anymore to find a product or service that they want to buy. More so with services, but even with products. They go to Facebook, they go to Instagram, they go to YouTube, and they search for whatever they want, and they use the social networks as the search engine. If you're not there, you're basically invisible to them. But not just them. A lot of older people will also do this, particularly when you're talking about service businesses as well, and especially with professional service businesses. They're going to completely avoid Google. It's not 2007 anymore where people just go to Google for everything, practically speaking. You have to technically be in both places if you're really going to dominate your market in a great deal of number of markets out there. So with that said, but if you're talking about selling to anybody that's under, let's say 25 right now, as I make this video in 2025, if you're not on social media organically, you are just totally, missing most of the market because they don't use Google nearly as much as you think anymore. The most people that use Google are the older people, baby boomers and so forth, and the least is Gen Z. And it goes, the younger you get, the more that uses social media for searching overall. So right away, if you are selling to a younger crowd of people, you pretty much don't have any choice but to have organic social because people aren't searching on Google for your stuff. Unless you want a very small chunk of the market, which that might be fine for you. Not everybody wants to take over the world, but just know that going in when you make your decision. Beyond that, the organic social on that side of things, it doesn't get that effective for local for a while, which is what causes most local businesses to completely steer away from it, even though it can be insanely profitable if they were to actually get a few tens of thousands of followers in their niche or area of expertise, if you will. You run an ad, potentially with the right ad, with the right targeting, you can get a customer today with paid ads. With organic, it's not going to happen because the algorithms, now that is totally true. On TikTok, the algorithm on TikTok is set up to where if you have a really good piece of content, the first post ever that you make can go viral and you can have 10 million views and make $1 million in sales and all that can happen. Typically, you don't have the skill level to know how to do that right away and it's going to take some practice anyway. But even on TikTok, the amount of followers you have is going to affect how much exposure you get on each post, and especially on YouTube and on Facebook, ultimately. You start out, and for that matter, on organic social, if you're going to make any money at it, you can't just randomly be posting stuff with no particular strategy, with no particular cadence to it. You need to have an understanding of what people's going to find interesting in your area of business or category of business. And you got to have a consistent posting schedule because the algorithms, they favor familiarity of somebody who's there posting because the algorithms are trying to figure out which posts are going to do good, which ones aren't, and they use your past performance to know if your future posts are going to do good. When you post randomly, that part of the algorithm doesn't get tickled, if you will, and it's really hard to get views going if you just post randomly. So you pretty much, practically speaking, you have to post regularly, and you got to also understand what people are looking for. Either figure it out up front or you post and you learn as you go. Technically, you need to do both. But so with that said, just to give you an example here, typically for businesses, you're not going to make any money with social media marketing, building up a following through consistent posting, because that's where you make your money, is building an actual following. Not posting stuff and hope it gets seen, but you build up the following through consistent posting. It'll typically take you years, or at least a year, for any business out there, for local business, to get enough followers where you're going to start getting sales. All practical purposes, most people are just aren't going to mess with it because they don't think long enough term. Even though if you build a brand in your space, you're always going to win because the brand ultimately is going to get the most business in any niche. That's just kind of how it works, including in local service businesses. Usually, it's going to take years to build up clients or customers from your social media efforts. Running our own YouTube channel here, it took me 2 years before I got any clients off of it. For the typical local service business, like we had a wedding planner who ran social and posted on Instagram, they didn't really get any customers until they had 10,000 followers there. So that's pretty typical, and that is not going to happen in 2 months. think the first 12 months basically as you start doing it for a local business especially, but even national businesses similarly kind of add to that. Even though with national businesses, on 10 followers, you can get a customer already because every person viewing is a customer versus on local, only a small part of the people who are viewing and subscribing to you are in your local market and can actually do business with you as a result of that. Even though the secret of having the following for a local business is they will be willing to drive to you from your outside your area. Whereas if you're a dentist, you don't only get people within a 5-mile radius of your office. If you're a famous dentist on social, they'll be willing to come 50 miles away to just be able to do business with you. But for that matter, it's going to take quite a while to build up enough followers so that you're going to get people at least semi-close to your business to come in and want to do business with you, even though they would be willing to drive further to get to you or deal with you, if you will. You are going to have a year into it before you really get any benefit for a local service business. For that, I would recommend starting with paid ads, then doing the social once you've got the paid ads going. Paid ads is never going to be done because you have to split test things. You got to tweak, use your data to improve. But at least if you're making money, I am a big fan of doing one thing at a time and doing it right versus 12 things and doing it all half-assed. You do the paid ads, you get it at least on the rails, and then you bring in your social, knowing that social is not going to do anything for you for the first year, but then it'll start trickling in. And the great thing about social is, unlike with the paid is like a compounding, but it's a linear growth. You're going to grow, but it's going to be, you're not going to go from 1 to 10 in a month. But on social, it's like a snowball. The more of it, the more followers you get, the quicker the customers come in. So yes, it takes a year to get the whole thing going in terms of getting customers or clients. On year 5, you're going to get 50 clients a month or whatever doing it potentially. So, and that's the way that it is. So it's worth investing into. It just, you can't rely your whole business on social because it's going to take so long to get going, build up enough followers to make a difference. You're going to go out of business before you get the customers coming in ultimately. Again, for national businesses, it's going to come quicker because you need less followers, but it's still, even with that, going to take some time. And usually I recommend starting out with paid ads as a result of that. So the other thing with organic social is it's better for more commodity type businesses. So if you're selling, let's say you're just an accountant or whatever, right? And you want to stand out. How could you really stand out in the market like that, if you will? That is, you could still, if you're an accountant, run ads on Google search where people typing in accountants near me, hire an accountant, whatever. And you can make money that way and do it quick, right? Within 90 days, you'll have a profitable campaign going if you know what you're doing with Google ads. That said, if you're going to reach out to other people and say, hey, are you willing to switch for your business to our firm, our accounting firm? You're going to play hell to try to get that done because everybody else can do what you're doing. How do you convince somebody in that situation to go with you? If you don't have any compelling offer there, like, we're way less money or, we're better and here's how we could specifically, tangibly prove it, you're better off just going on social media, talking about your expertise and build up a following because doing outreach like that isn't going to get you anywhere. And for that matter, when you're trying to get people by interrupting them with a display ad on YouTube or Facebook or whatever for your accountant business, for the most part, it's not going to be effective because unless you need an accountant right now, you're probably not going to work. Basically, no matter what you say. So, but with social, the game is you talk about accounting issues. So when people have questions about it, they're going to see it. Or you comment about accounting scandals. It's another way to go about doing things. And they see it and people find it entertaining. And then the day that they actually are going to need an accountant or pissed off at their current accountant and they want to switch, you're already first in line for that business, if you will. And that's how you expand your business. So you use maybe the Google search ads to kind of give you a little bit of a bump initially. That's not going to make you a multi-millionaire in and itself. You use social and the general awareness and branding yourself as a known name in the space of accounting in some way. And then your business keeps growing because and off the backs of that, if you will. If you have the brand name because you're out there in the public on and through social, you don't have to have a differentiator anymore. This happens the same way with conferences. people sponsor conferences and they speak at conferences for like, a number of different things. It could be home design or whatever. And just because the person's speaking there, they may not have said anything at all compelling. Because they're there, I want to hire that person. As it comes to social media, you having 3,000 followers makes me want to hire you because that's social proof in and itself. Why would these people be following you if you weren't any good? I don't know if you're any good, but because you got people following you, you must be good. That's where the clients and customers specifically come from social, for that matter, more than anything else. Not because of what you're saying, and you're saying, you do an ad pitch in the middle of your videos or whatever you're doing, saying, hey, you could hire us as well. That's going to get you a little bit. The main thing is that they know who you are and other people have chose to follow you. Therefore, you're qualified to get my business because of that specifically. So if you don't have anything different to say about your business, being famous is the differentiator. You don't need any other one other than that. And that could be one way to dig your way out of normalcy or being normal in your space. You can't stand out. The other thing about organic social is it makes local/niche businesses more scalable, if you will. And for that matter, if you sell a brand new concept, let's say, we'll just go there first. We sold a fancy household goods product, basically like appliance. It was a product brand new in its field, if you will. We tried to run paid ads for this. Given it's kind of like a new concept or whatever, people aren't really interested in it because there's nothing harder to do in advertising and marketing as to pitch something to people that don't even know what it is. Because unless somebody else has done it or you've been using it, they don't want to use it. So with that said, the company, more than anything, to be able to push this product was doing organic social itself. They're doing demonstrations, they're putting on cooking shows, all this stuff. And they would interweave, their product within this content. And that in itself, because the followers would see this product over and over again, now they're interested in buying this product. Whereas if you were to hit them with it one time, and specifically in an ad, and people don't trust ads, it wouldn't work in it itself. So with that, social media can be a way to get new ideas going, if you will. But going back to like what I was mentioning before about the accountancy, you cannot get enough off of Google search by itself by just advertising there. There's only so many people coming to Google searching for an accountant at any given time, and you'll tap out on that for a lot of niche businesses like an accountancy, like a seller of a specific specialized tool that people who install roofs would need to install their roofs. There's only so much of that action to get on Google search. And if you advertise on, generally speaking on social media with an ad, it's what you're offering is so niche, it's hard to drill down enough to get to that audience that you want, if you will. You could do that with YouTube pretty easily. But with that said, you often are, again, just not going to be able to, even if you went after every single person looking for that roofing installation tool on Google recently, because they've typed it on Google recently, and they typed it in on YouTube search recently, which you could do with custom intent audiences on YouTube, you're still only going to get so much out of there. There's still only so much that you could do there. You cannot really make the big leagues until you are able to start building up a following of your own, and then people, because you're a famous name out there that they follow, they're willing to buy what you have. For that matter, just to give you an analogy here, people that are authors, most of the authors out there that sell books, the only way that they're able to sell books is they don't do it by, if they sell a cooking book, showing up on Google for cooking books. There's only so much there. And also similarly, you're not viewed as anything particularly that amazing because there's a lot of other books there that they can buy. The only way you make that work is you build a following. And because they follow you and they like you, they're going to be willing to buy anything you have. You could be selling, back itching cream. And their back doesn't even itch. They're going to buy it anyway just because you recommended it because they know, like, and trust you. So most authors, they build the following, and if they don't have the following, they can't sell their books. And the following has to come before the books do. And really what they do is they make books that they think their following wants, and then they release those. It's completely backwards compared to what most people do, which is they make the book, then they try to figure out how to sell it, and good luck trying to sell it without a following, basically. So with that said, there's a lot of markets out there where what you're selling is just too niche, or your town is only so big and you can only get so many customers out there, if you will. And you're really not going to hit the big leagues unless you are able to build up an actual legitimate following. So people just want to buy that aren't necessarily buying because it was in their mind, it was their idea to buy that thing in the first place. That can be where organic can help you out, where the paid ads typically won't be able to help you out in itself, or to a much lesser level. Now, on the flip side here on paid ads, which I'm a paid ad expert, I know a lot about different marketing and advertising methods, from public relations and getting press to SEO. And for that matter, if you're a business owner, you need to know on a high level all this stuff to be able to understand which direction to point your business, and then if you're going to hire somebody, to know if they're full of shit or not, if you will. On the agency side, if you try to do everything, you're not going to be an expert in any of it, at least when you're going to be charging clients for your expertise directly and helping them with their marketing. You have to specialize in an area. And even with paid ads anymore, people are specializing on certain platforms to be effective, ultimately. I've just focused on paid ads so I could be the best at paid ads itself. And that's all I talk about on this channel. That's all I do at our firm, is help people with their paid ads, guaranteeing them increase in revenue and so forth. For that matter, if you want to be able to start with paid ads, which pretty much every business is going to be able to get paid ads to work, it's just a matter of where you need to run the ad, what's the ad got to have to say on it, and you can figure those two things out, you can make it work. That plus you understand the gotchas with the ad platforms, so you don't bleed your money, have your money get bled away by irrelevant people seeing the ad accidentally, which is the most common reason why people don't make money with ads. For that matter, of course, if you have more money than time, you reach out to our firm and you have me set up your ads, because I got 20 years experience doing this, and this cuts through all the crap that you have to learn right away. And we are going to guarantee a result, so why would you not want to do it? Furthermore, though, if you don't have you have more time than money, then you study this channel and you subscribe to it, because I go over all the stuff that we use to guarantee results for clients at our firm on this channel, and it's here all for free. And I literally have to spend 70 hours a week working, because I have to work 40 hours a week doing ad strategy at our firm for our dozens of clients, and then ultimately share all that stuff that I learned what works on the weekends to do this YouTube channel, which nobody else that I know is doing this. Therefore, the information is actually valid, because most of the YouTubers don't run any ads anymore, or haven't. And the information's outdated or just made up. So if you want to really know how to make money with ads and get this going for yourself, there's no other better place to learn how to make real money with ads than here, in my opinion. And I try to find information that's good, and there's barely anything out there for me to learn. So I got to try this stuff for myself. So if you haven't subscribed, you should subscribe already in that case. And then furthermore, by the way, I have a great secondary resource on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. My blog has the strategies we're using to guarantee results for clients at our firm, step by step, and with screenshots and everything else you would need to use them. If you also want to be able to make millions of dollars running ads for your business, you want to definitely check that out as well. But going back to what I was about ready to go through in terms of the paid ads side and comparing paid ads to organic social, the first thing I want to mention right off the top here is paid ads are great for micro niches, at least when you're talking about right away. Now, we just talked about, I know it sounds like I'm contradicting myself here. For a micro niche, there's still only so many people looking for butterfly nuts for their project itself. There's only so many people per month searching for that. There's only so many people that are in market for that at any given time. And you're going to hit a roadblock with what you could make with it itself. And so ultimately, running social ads for that is not going to work, because who you're targeting is such a narrow audience of people, unless, ultimately that nut will fix people. It causes people to lose weight, and then suddenly you could convince them by just blasting it out there. But for the most part, that type of social ads doesn't work for such a niche item. So you end up having to run ads on Google. You might run ads on YouTube with demand gen campaigns targeting people who have recently searched for that, or are working on projects where you need that product, and that's the results lie. And then once you've done that, you picked all that low-hanging fruit, building a social following is how you actually go to the stratosphere, because then you could change minds. You can change people's minds and make them think butterfly nuts are valuable when they're not. And that's where that should be your ultimate overall goal is. Now, if you're trying to make money quickly, there's nothing better than running niche ads for that business, running your Google search ads, running your YouTube ads for people that have recently searched for that particular item or service on Google recently, which you can do with custom intent audiences, and you target them. And the reason for that is because when you start doing social media itself, for such a niche item like that, it's going to be tough to get the social following to turn into sales, at least until you've had lots and lots of subscribers already. Because once you get the subscribers high enough, eventually people will just buy because you recommended it to them. And that's usually at the 5-figure follower level, definitely 6 and 7 figures. So in terms of speed and ROI, there's nothing better for a niche business to run the paid ads, at least at first. And then the social media can be added in later on. So you have the long-term overall result that you want, using the paid ad profits to finance the content creation that you're going to need for building up the social media following, because that in itself is going to cost money, or you're going to have to pay someone to do it. And for that matter, by the way, I don't recommend anybody to pay somebody to build up your social media following. Outsource everything else in your business first. Why? Because it's extremely hard to find someone that can build a social media following effectively. At the very least, if you do hire somebody, it needs to be someone that's proven to have a social following of their own. If they don't have that, I mean, just forget about it. Because if they knew how to do that, they would just do it for themselves. For that matter, it's going to be, somebody, and the reason why it's also not going to work is because they're not going to give a shit. You got to be very, very compelling to get people to follow your content, or you're going to have to spend a lot of money on the content itself. So it's going to take a lot of your time personally, or you're going to have to spend a lot to put together really compelling content. Either way, it's going to be money up front that you don't see a return on for a long time. And so for me, the only way to justify it is to make money with the paid ads first, and then devoting maybe say 20-30% of the profits I'm making to this social thing over here. And I know it's not going to pay for a long, long time, but eventually it'll take over the sales that the paid ads do and overtake it. And that might be 4 or 5 years down the road, but when it overtakes it, you're not going to have an artificial plateau on your results anymore. The sky's the limit, because once you're a big name out there and you're famous, basically, again, not only just every person in that niche will want to do business with you because you're the biggest name, but other people who would have never bought are going to buy because you told them to. So as far as paid ads as well, for immediate purchases, paid ads is obviously going to be the best way to go versus organic social. If you're selling a broken pipe repair, emergency dentistry, the social media is just, not to say it's worthless, but way less valuable at the very least. Now, there's a lot of people who are looking for an emergency dentist who are going to go to Facebook and type in emergency dentist Orlando or something like that to find who they're going to deal with. Again, like I was mentioning before, more so with the younger crowd. But that said, be there on social, if you will, so that right away when people search for you on social media, you're at the top. Money and effort it takes for you to do that, you're not going to get a return right away. I would personally want to focus on Google and Microsoft/Bing first, and then do the social. But I would definitely would want to do both anyway, because some people are searching on social, some people are searching on Google. It's just not going to provide quite the speed of return on social as you're going to get with Google, which you're going to right away show up, and that's it. Also with paid ads, when you have a great offer, paid ads is the way to go, because when you interrupt people and you say, I'm an accountant, hire me. That's going back to what I was saying before about being a commodity. If you are a commodity and you refuse to be different, then building the following is the way. If you could be different, paid ads is the way, okay? You could be the most boring business owner in the most boring business. Anybody could come up with an offer that once people see it, they're going to drop everything to jump on it. And to give you one example of this, we had a mortgage broker who had a lowest mortgage rate guarantee, that if you could find somebody that had a lower interest rate on your mortgage, we would give you a $100 Outback Steakhouse gift card for your trouble itself. And then we could just run that on Facebook and run that on YouTube and run that on Instagram. And people, because they saw it, the offer was so good, we were able to make that work. And screw waiting around for us to build up a social media following. Well, we could just run that ad in front of everybody, and because the offer is so good, people will jump on it itself. And for that matter, if you're selling a product, if the product you have is good and you can do a really good demonstration of it, you're going to make more money from that than trying to build the following. At least in terms of right away. We had a toolbox where it was really high quality to demonstrate that. We had the guys stand in the drawers and show that you could take the weight of a really big, 200 some pound guy and the drawers would not buckle itself. We've had a product like power tools where we slammed them on stuff and showed that they could keep working after that. That gets people's attention right away, and that's the type of thing they like to see on social media. And ultimately, it at the same time sells the product, if you will. It's the highest quality drill on the market in terms of durability. And so if you could be different, the paid ads is just the way to go. You just right away go to market with it, and because it's so compelling, it'll get clicked through right away. Versus if you say you're an accountant, nobody's going to click through your ad because they know they could go to Google at any time for an account, and there's no value there. So for that matter, if you could come up with a guarantee, a demonstration, maybe the answer is you go and you pay, like we have in the past, to get your product reviewed by a really famous influencer or celebrity, or get paid to have a feature or mention on the news like Fox News, CNN, whatever, and then take that and put that into your ad so that when people see that, they take interest in it right away. Oh, it's on the news. Or, oh, this big influencer is talking about it. And you can actually then, get that ad to have an immediate return because it's different enough. But if you're going to be boring, the ad's not going to work, and the organic following is the way. And then furthermore, on paid ads, it'll work within 1 to 6 months, and it's great to do first. So you're not going to have to wait around for years to build up the following first. It's going to work pretty much not instantly like a lot of people think. It's not a light switch. When you turn on the ad, you're instantly freaking rich, and that's it. You have to run the ads, and because the algorithms that run the ads on Google, on Bing, on Facebook, all these networks, needs time to see that your ads perform well before they really give them good traction and put you in front of the people who are the best prospects, not the junky prospects that they give to the top advertiser that has the best click-through rates and conversion rates on their ads, which they do divvy out the traffic and they separate it out to their favorite advertisers and their non-favorite. Because of this, it's going to take time to get the ads profitable, but you can pretty much expect, if you do everything right, that is, you have the highest click-through rates and highest conversion rates in your niche, so that the ad platform itself prefers to show your ad to more people than the other people, so that people want to click on ads more in the future on their platform, then you can just pretty much expect to always make money. So it's not a matter of if it will work, it's can I do better than the competition that's already advertising that is already making money, and if so, I make money. It's really that simple. Versus the organic side, there's more of an unknown. Am I going to be interesting enough to build a following? Is people's consumer tastes going to change? Am I going to build up my following around this corporate culture category or the consumer culture trend, and then that's not a trend anymore, or what have you? Then you wasted your time, kind of, even though you can pivot, of course. But because you're going to get anytime, in business, it's always great to think long term. I talk about how people think too short term all the time on this channel. But the longer term you think, the more risk it is, because things can change before you get to the end of the road with it. Oh, I can get a return in 5 years. Well, what if in 5 years there's 3 new competitors that pop up? The return never came because of it. There's variables in there, unknown variables that can pop up. So with paid ads, you put the right thing in motion. You have the right ad with the right landing page to beat your competition. You can expect in 3 months from now, nothing too much is going to change, and therefore it's not as risky. And then finally here, by the way, in terms of risk, and speaking of risk, we also sell ad templates at our advertising firm. When we started doing this, because I realized a lot of people they want to make money. So if they aren't successful in business, they want to just know how to do that. Starting from an ad template that our firm has already verified has worked to sell plumbing services or printer toner or whatever it is, and just employing it in your ad accounts and starting your business around the template itself is the way to go, versus starting with the business and then trying to find the ads that work. Or if you're in a niche market that we've already operated in before, you could take the winning ads and landing pages and all that we've already found out works for that market in a different city or state or country, and then just use it for yourself and get the same results we got with none of the work, none of the time and hassle it took to figure out how to find a profitable ad campaign that will work for that market. If you're interested in those, you can always reach out to me at my firm at guaranteedppc.com, and I'll tell you what of the hundreds of different niche templates we have, and you can see for yourself if it's worth it or not. Similar to that, as far as trying to figure out whether what you're doing is likely to work or not, or why you're not making money, in a 30-minute coaching session, if you reach out to me at my firm at guaranteedppc.com, I can let you know based upon your packaging, your sales process, all of it, why it's not working and what you have to do to get your ads working, your paid ads working, because this is all I do at our firm all day long. I can tell you if you're starting up a campaign, if it's likely to work. So before plowing, thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars and starting ad spend and all this stuff, ask somebody who runs ads all day long whether it's likely to work or not and save yourself the time. I'm very good at, identifying stuff that will work based upon the hundreds of different products I've seen work and not work, as well as services. Reach out to me if you're also interested in that as well. The last thing I wanted to say about paid ads as it comes to comparing that to organic social is it's better for B2C overall, okay? Doing paid ads for B2B is actually quite difficult, to the point of which, respectively, comparing organic social to paid ads, assuming you could build up a following for paid ads, the amount of money you will make with organic social for B2B markets is 100 times what you can make with paid ads. Why is that? Because people don't trust companies that advertise in the B2B space. They just don't. I mean, we stopped advertising for our own PPC firm because, people that do go to Google for a PPC service, these are like the bottom of the barrel type of clients that are like, they don't know anything about PPC. All they know is they want a cheap person and that's it. And then they pick one of the, how many companies are there and that's it. Versus if somebody's going on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook searching for PPC consultants, or even on LinkedIn for that matter, the person that's searching there is a much more high quality user. And once they've seen your writing, your video, whatever it is that you're doing as far as content, they can tell just by that what kind of company you are. And when they come in, they're already ready to buy. And it's the type of person you actually want. So not to say paid ads can't work for B2B, it's just harder. For B2B products, it's certainly a hell of a lot easier itself to do that, selling the tools to the roofer, like I mentioned before, or, ultimately selling, even on the services side, selling IT services, because for that, ultimately, you're probably going to hire someone locally and none of the local IT companies advertise. And if you could drill your advertising down to just business owners in your 30-mile radius of where you're at, it can work, which is what we've done before for an IT services company to try to advertise instead of trying to compete with the national companies and not having an edge because you're one of 500 companies now. With that said, okay, doing B2B advertising for services as a whole, it's very challenging to do because there's no trust. We still run ads on Google search for like ADA compliant services where you try to, where you got to have it be like handicap accessible, like, where you hire a company to help you do that for your business. You're talking about translation services. We'll run search ads because for a niche item like that, you still a lot of times are going to go to Google search and whatnot, but it's still, again, not nearly as good as showing up on organic social when somebody's searching for how to make my website ADA compliant, and then you are there, and then they've watched a few videos, and what do you know? Your videos, I've seen 2-3 videos of your pop up. You must be an authority in this space, and then just going to because you're the authority in the space versus you're one of many companies doing it. Now I'm shopping more so on price versus on quality, and so you actually get the type of clients that you want. For me, for B2B, even for B2B, I'm going to run paid ads. I'm just going to rely on it less, or at least I'm going to say to myself, the real money in this space is not in running the paid ads, it's in doing the organic social. Even though we could do things like, if we're selling specialized push notification software to app companies that want to monetize their users on their app more, we could push out a white paper on LinkedIn, on Facebook, like we've done in the past, and get the email addresses and the phone numbers of those people and have our sales team call them and still make good money, which was one successful campaign that we ran before, and go that whole route with it. The long-term goal is still, how can we be an influencer in this space that we're in this case, in marketing an app and monetizing an app, and then everybody who basically follows us is going to try our app, okay? And, it just becomes like a huge magnet for your business. Everybody who wants to monetize their app follows this channel. Oh, what do you know? They all now know about our solution. That should be really your focus, in my opinion, for B2B services, for sure. Even though the paid ads can be a way to get things going quickly, Just like doing outreach for B2B services, you can email people, you can send them letters in the mail talking about how and why they should do business with you, and that will work as well. That's not where the real money is most of the time in B2B services. If you want to make the ridiculous money, you got to have a following in most of those spaces, those B2B spaces. Anyway, with all that said, I gave you some examples of where social works great, whether it's the wedding planner who, even though they only deal with people locally, their business, they have to turn away business because they've got 50,000 followers on Instagram. Or we're talking about, the IT services company where, we didn't necessarily, have to have a following on social, even though, because we could advertise locally and that becomes our edge. And we found a way to have an edge. Or the mortgage broker where we found an edge itself by offering the lowest price, lowest rate guarantee. You have to figure out a way, if I have to distill this down into one thing to take away from this video overall is, are you unique and interesting enough to where an ad can be all you need to get your message across to the user to get them to buy? Or are you not unique enough and you need to build a following to build trust to get them to want to do business with you based upon trust and brand alone itself? And, for the accountant, the following, is kind of like what you need, because we've tried it in that space. Ads are only going to be a small part of your revenue in terms of if you're trying to build a firm, a decent sized firm, that's not going to carry you. Versus if you're the e-commerce business who sells specialized house paint, we're going to make $10 million a year selling it on Google and Bing alone without even touching anything to do with social whatsoever, because it's a fairly big niche and we're dealing with B2C. B2C, people need to see less stuff on social media to convince them to buy than, somebody considering to buy a cybersecurity company services, where I want to be more confident about who they're dealing with and more likely to go do research. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to go to social media more so anymore than blogs. And if I'm not there, I've lost that business automatically. With that said, I'm going to pretty much wrap it up with that. Hopefully that makes sense. I know there's a lot of stuff I went over here in terms of local versus national. National on social can work quicker, whereas local it's longer to work, but it's still just as profitable ultimately. And B2B versus B2C, where B2C on the paid ad side is more so useful, whereas on B2B they're more powerful overall. Even though paid ads and social can work for both of these if you're just creative enough, if you understand how to promote ebooks / white papers, and as long as you understand how to create something compelling enough and be good at creating content, learn the art of it, and build a following for yourself, even if it has nothing to do with your product or service, which in general, like what we do on this channel itself, I don't just talk about paid ads alone on this channel. I'm building a following of business owners who want to grow their business ultimately, which revolves around marketing in some way. And then, of course, eventually the end goal is everybody just comes to do business with us if they're going to do business with anybody when the time comes. So with that said, I'll wrap it up with that. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.
Remember when I said paid ads was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.